Hello and welcome to the wonderful and wacky city of Clobunod. This is the largest city I've ever made in City Skylines, and I made it over the course of the last 2 years, off and on, here and there, in between making other cities, not playing for a while, coming back to it, doing other games, the usual. So, we have a population of almost 500,000 people, and somehow we managed to do this without significant traffic problems. Of course, along the way, there have been plenty of issues. We've had all sorts of delays and problems, and this city is full of wacky little solutions for problems that have come and gone over the years. So, let's take a look. Let's zoom way out. We can't even zoom out far enough to see the whole thing, but we can get a pretty good glimpse of it from up here. Yeah. So it goes on all three sides of the water, although this side is a little bit less developed, but this is, of course, just sprawling. The city just sprawls everywhere. And it's hard to even know where to start with this. Where do I even start showing you the city? I think the best place to start is where the city itself started to build. So, can you guess where this all started? Can you guess the origin of it all? Did you guess up here? Were you right? Well, this is where it was. This is the old city. Very humble looking, mostly low density, has a bunch of windmills. This is where it all started. And if we look at the terrain here, if we take a look at our terrain, which isn't the easiest thing to do, but you can see we are up on a little hill. And one thing to note about this map is that this map was very flat originally. I put all this here, and I would like the idea of having Old City be on a hill and it going gradually outwards as we build. So all the green roads that you see, the green colored streets, those were the roads on which the city initially expanded. So I started off this whole thing by saying, okay, we're going to build a little town here. Once we've reached 1,000 people, we're going to put a ring road around it. So you see, there is a little humble road that goes in a circle around our entire downtown area. Old Town area. And then we just continued going outwards from there. As you can see, at some point there was decided to be a monorail ring around it. We have a ton of monorail lines in the city. In fact, it's the main way of getting around in our city. Whenever I see... see how many there are? Whenever I see 0, I have to investigate. Because, there is an unfortunate tendency in the city for things to get stuck. So I have to manually come over here and delete whatever trains I think are causing the delay, and they will respawn and fix things up. So it's something I always have to keep my eye out for, because we have 32 lines, more or less, and some of them can get very silly. But anyway, back to where I was, Center City, or Old City rather. We have concentric rings of development that come out of this. Now, this city was organic, but not in the same way that my SimCity 4 cities were organic, because doing SimCity 4 style organicness in Skylines is just about impossible. So I did organic in the most literal sense, as in sort of a bacterium or a colony of single-cell organisms just expanding outwards and giving it more and more. One of the next things you'll see is that there is actually a large avenue that sort of rings around halfway up the hill here, and that was put in when we had 20 or 30,000 people. And as you can see, it goes through many different areas and much different development. So that was sort of our next ring of development. And when we were out to that point, we just sort of started branching off in all these various directions, and all sorts of craziness ensued. So yeah, I really don't know where to go, but why not come up here to the closest thing we have to a downtown district. We actually have a few of these, but this is up on a second hill that I built. It's not as high as the first one, and when you look from here, it looks pretty urbanized. So we have some good development. I decided to go with a square here with multiple roads going off in every direction. And we have a, I guess you could call it a pseudo-roundabout with a nice plaza in here. I say nice, it's actually pretty sparse and modernist in a sad way, and there's a random house here. So yeah, the aesthetics of this whole city are kind of all over the place and kind of rough, if I'm going to be honest, but it is what it is, as they say. So this was also a second pole of development. We started to build off from here, go in various different directions. And one thing you're going to notice is there is a big ditch here. And what is this big ditch with a rail going through it? Well, ladies and gentlemen, this rail was here when this was all flat land. That was one of the initial rails of the city. So I just sort of left it as it was when I built up the hill. So we have this crazy canyon, and we have another only slightly less crazy canyon nearby. Whoa, that was cool. But what am I talking about? I am talking about over here. Because initially, I built this little 2-lane road to be a bypass of the city. Because the city was mainly over here. So I wanted to bypass it so that cars were not going through it. But of course, as often happens in urban development that's not thought through all the way, the bypass became a major urban thoroughfare itself. Now this road used to be extremely busy, which is why you see some of these New Jersey style jug handles and such here. And you have a bypass of the bypass, which goes over a lot of the urbanization which developed. But of course, we have now a highway that is further out from that, and we have another highway that's further out from that. So what if we get up to a bit of a bird's eye view, take a look at everything? Yeah, this is our entire city from extreme zoom outness. I started here, expanded around to these areas, and I only bought the tiles one at a time. That's why you have like a hard line here at the cutoff. But I eventually did jump across the river and start working on this area here. And I even started here. And you can see there was an abortive attempt to make something here. But you might ask, why did the city stop growing? And the answer is, there is a limit on how much stuff you can make. So if I go in here and try to build a road, I can do it now. But that's only because I deleted a bunch of stuff. And if I started to build too much, I would run into that limit again. So yeah, let's look at some of the wackiness going on here. This whole area is some of the silliest stuff you'll ever see. And there was not really a master plan to any of this. It was all built one piece at a time, had major renovations. Believe it or not, this is the more refined version of this whole area. It used to be a whole lot more chaotic. It was very rough. But if you notice, we have this highway coming into the city. And if we look far enough in the distance, you will see that this highway exists here, but it does not exist in the middle, because I didn't want that. I didn't want the highway just to go all the way through, because I felt that would sort of ruin the organicness that I was going for. So I ended up cutting off the highway here, and as you can see, it comes in, and it goes into several highways here. This is our most outer beltway of the entire city. It almost looks like a pleasant area to live in over here. And then you have this highway I built later on, which sort of swoops in here in a gradual curve. And then, of course, you have this highway, which goes into some of our older stuff. So let's look at this for a bit. It goes along flatter lands. It's one of our busier highways, despite being one of our narrower ones. It goes through many industrial parks. It intersects with this, our inner beltway, I guess you could call it. And then it starts to go up the hill. Because remember, all the old stuff is up the hill. And then you might think, what in the heck is going on over here? What kind of craziness is this? Well, at one point in history, this was the end of the highway. And this used to be a huge mess. There was massive amounts of traffic going along here. And also, if you look at the other end here, this was also a little stub that came into here and stopped. So this was all a mess. And I decided we needed a highway to go straight through this area. And it might not seem like it's necessary now, given the traffic that we have, but that's just because it's working as efficiently as I hoped for. This is a Super 2, and if you go into the whole, go away. If you go into the whole mod thing, you can see that there is a lot of lane designations picked, especially by the intersections, because if I just had it like normal, they would turn left places like here. To keep it as a pseudo expressway, you have to have these lane designations pushing them through. So you might think this is a little bit crowded, but just trust me, based on what we used to have, it's really not much. So we have this wacky Super 2 that just blasted its way through, going under and over the rest of the infrastructure on its way to connect with this freeway that we have here. So yeah, and by the way, this is another little route that existed before any of this was built, so that's why we have such an odd situation going on. So let's follow some of these major highways to see where they go. First of all, before we do that, let's look at one of our initial bypasses, our former 2-lane road bypass. That started here in a mess of crap that we used to have here. It has a pretty lackluster ending here. It doesn't even connect to the highway, but not directly anyway. But if you look and you mark the course of this actually goes in a gentle curve, because this was like a one-click big gentle curve that was very much modified over time, and many stories can be told by this road just by looking at it. Like you can see here, turns were needed. And then, of course, we have our first roundabout. This is a huge multi-lane roundabout that I built to connect it to this little hybrid surface boulevard expressway thingy that I made. But then it curves around to this boulevard, and we have two extreme Jersey-style jug handle things that are completely unnecessary now, but at one point this was very busy and very congested. And now we have another roundabout going under our highway, in which we have the surface and express routes. So once again, probably not necessary, but at one point it was. So you can see we have many things going off to either side. We have a little transportation hub, of which I can already tell there is backup, so we have to delete that. This is one of the more problematic lines. We have to continually redo it. But anyway, yeah, it had a surface crossing to the trains that come in and go in our cities, because at the time it wasn't a problem. So that continues to this roundabout. And I kind of like this because we have roads going various different ways. This one leads up to that little downtown area that I talked about before. This one over here doesn't really go anywhere special, but you can also make a right turn over here and head straight up to Old City. This here is a road that goes straight there, and it was sort of the basis for the grid pattern you see in this area. But anyway, this continues into a canyon here, because remember, this was flat originally. So this is still a little express route to get through over here. We have some wacky type stuff over here. And at one point, this hooked up directly to here. But of course, we built this expressway. So it needed to turn into a bit of a cloverleaf. And of course, the cloverleaf ended up getting modified because there was traffic going on and all sorts of stuff. So let's talk about this highway now. It begins in one of the more interesting things, because you just look at this and you're like, what's going on here? How can I possibly get a handle on what I'm looking at? My brain is just melting down looking at it. And so what happened was this highway stopped. It just stopped here. And I connected it to a sort of a parkway that goes along the river, but we'll get to that later on here. So this highway began here, and it had many modifications over the years to improve traffic flow over here. But anyway, it begins. You can even see the remnants of the more simple jug handles that used to exist before they got overly complicated. But we come up here. There is a jug handle to get us into the original boulevard, and now we peacefully go on our way. And here it's more or less conventional. You'll have nice little T intersections. You'll have flyover ramps. We have parks here. And this continues in a nice curve. Of course, we have some complication here because this is a ramp that leads us to the cargo harbor, and we'll get to that more in detail later. But this was a road. I wanted this road here to start at this downtown area and continue on. So we've done that. This road curves around. There is a very popular zoo here. At one point, this zoo had massive traffic. So that was why this whole thing had to be constructed, to sort of manage the zoo traffic. And then I realized that this entrance wasn't connected, and so everyone was being funneled over here. And once I connected this, it actually solved huge amounts of the problems. And we're going to let the night come through. I don't think that we'll... This was a countdown timer for City of Skylines 2, and I thought it looked neat. Like, I imagine they have like movie night on the parkway over here. I mean, all the lamps and stuff kind of ruin it, but you can imagine that, right? Like movie night going on, everyone coming out here, getting blankets or long chairs and just sitting and watching movies on this. Yeah, it's a very cool thought. But anyway, our road just continues through here. There's a modified cloverleaf with a thing, and I think I spot some delay, some problems. Do I? Or do I not? No, I definitely do. Boom. All right, we just have to. Sometimes you have to delete it at the right end for things to work, and there we go. Anyway, this continues along over here, and it curves. Has a cloverleaf with our little boulevard from before, and then it goes off in this direction. It has another cloverleaf with this road that goes up the hill towards Old City, and it continues, and then it makes a sharp bank to the left and becomes elevated. Yes, in fact, this becomes the highway that used to go here, but it has been cut off. So it follows the course of the highway that used to be elevated. It plunges under the airport before emerging onto the other side and continuing off into some vast bridges, and indeed it becomes one of our major cities, our major arterial routes rather, and that continues off here. But we'll talk about that later. So, man, yeah, it's hard to tell anything from here. It is just a visual mess, and I don't blame anyone for just having a headache looking at all this, but I promise you, it all works. So that was our inner beltway. Now let's look at our outer beltway. Yeah, you can see it starts over here with this craziness, and it kind of goes towards the edge of the city. And of course, I was developing just about any piece of land that I had access to, so you'll have nice stuff like that going on. This goes out here. It goes near to the edge of the map, where it has several intersections with other roads. And then it does a curve. It banks in, and then it becomes the outer beltway. Because at one point, this road in here was the boundaries of development, and then the development came up to this road, and then it just jumped over. So it grew up around the road. We have some other smaller hills here because I wanted it to be not flat, not boring. I wanted it to be more exciting. So this road has its own canyon that it goes through. Some more conventional interchanges. And yeah, we even have some jug handles with enforced directional arrows going on here. Very useful. This was a very busy place at one point. So that continues in a gentle curve. It's very efficient. This road moves a lot of people. And we get into some craziness over here because we have yet another pseudo expressway style boulevard that has at-grade intersections but is very fast. And that goes us towards one of our minor outlying downtown areas. So we have pretty much a three-way thing here, but we also have to contend with the cargo harbor. So we go forward, there's another exit, and then comes this mess. This highway itself mostly avoids all the craziness, but there's no denying that this is a complete disaster. What the hell, Bone? Why did you make it? This is awful. This is terrible. This makes me want to cry. This makes me want to just break down sobbing. I want to just sit in the rain with sad music playing, just sit there, get soaked like sad Keanu Reeves, and just be really, really sad about all this. Well, at one point, I had insane backups, and so I built this labyrinthine thing so that people would be able to wait. And then that got backed up, so I had to build a second layer on top of it for more capacity, and then that got backed up, so I had to add a little bit more over here. So that, my friends, is why that was such a tragedy. Yeah, pour one out for the poor people who have to deal with this. But yep, that is what I had to do, and I've learned recently that when traffic is coming to a cargo harbor, you can reroute them to another cargo harbor, and they'll still use it. They're just going to a cargo harbor. So that is something for aspiring city planners of Skylines to know. So anyway, this highway goes over the bridge, and it goes to the edge of the city, where it connects with one of our major outlying highways. So that is what we have going on there. I've explained the inner beltway. I've explained the outer beltway. So, and also, I tend to consider this on the other side to be a separate road because of how it used to be arranged, but I guess we could consider it as one road now. So, let's take a look at this. This originally, if we look at the map here, was beyond the boundaries of what we were originally working with. So this was a bypass of this direction, because everything to the right here at one point did not exist. So this was a wide, sweeping road way out in the middle of nowhere, nothing to worry about, but of course it became urbanized also. So once again, wide sweeping. I've made liberal use of roundabouts in this world, and the only way to really have roundabouts work in this game, well actually no, this one I didn't use directional things because it was low capacity, but if you have a high capacity roundabout, you need to use those directional things, or there will just be much inefficiency. So this one goes beyond the airport, and then it makes a sharp right turn and becomes this highway. Now, early on, I built this little thing to connect these two roads directly without people having to come down here and use the cloverleaf. And it works mostly well. You can see I've had to modify it. It used to just go along here, but if we go under the world, yeah, this became so crazy that I had to sort of turn this into something else, like a bypass for this whole thing, because this used to be a huge bottleneck. So yeah, we're telling stories here, telling stories of what happened to this city. So now let's talk about this road, because this is a major highway that we had to worry about, because once I had all this developed, this area and down here, this was sort of the first major expansion I sort of pre-planned. Like, unlike the chaos of up here, this is on a pretty consistent grid, and I wanted this to be more of a downtown feel kind of area. Like, you have your central monorail line, you have a boulevard along the river, which we will get to soon, and so I'm like, well, we have this huge thing up here, we have this new area that I'm planning here, and this will be the main highway, accessing the two and separating the two, and also adjoining the other areas in the future. So it begins here, and if this cloverleaf looks shockingly conventional compared to everything else I've seen, this was there. Like, you know how the game likes to give you stuff to, like, get you started, and I'm always annoyed by it and all that. That was the case here. This was here, I think. I don't remember. This was a long time ago. But in any case, I just left it as long as everyone was using it and it was working out fine. I decided to leave it. Of course, I did decide to build some modifications because of traffic issues, but it still exists in its original form for the most part. So it goes along here, and there's even downtown type areas over here and parks. So this is a major road here. And as you'll see as we go along, there are major improvements we've had to make along the way to make things function. This area is pretty normal, and you can tell when you see stuff like this. Like, this was built before this, so it sort of functioned as a funnel to come in here, with this area sort of being an afterthought at the time. So you have the pseudo collector and distributor network type stuff. Oh, and over here you have one of the craziest hubs you'll see for mass transportation. That was one of those things that wasn't planned. It just sort of kept getting added on to until we had just wacky hubs of wackiness. So this goes on here. It continues under more commercial or more industrial. Like, this highway is also a large industrial highway, which is another reason that it's insane. So this up here is what I was talking about before. The highway, the little stub that used to dump off onto this avenue before I connected it with this other highway over here. So this is like the closest we have to an urban freeway going like through some of our older areas up here. Yeah, and you can see why all this was necessary. Although industry creates far more traffic than residential and commercial in this game. That's something to know if you're building. So At one point, this was a disaster, this whole area, because you have this major junction, this major junction. So I had to segregate traffic on multiple different levels. So you have the highway level, then you have roads going over it, and then you have highways going over those roads. So yeah, this was the first highway. Everything that you see here, this highway was first. And then second was this road. Then third came this, and then all this had to be built. And this happy highway goes across the river and to this little city. Now, this was master planned, and it was going to be bigger, and it looks very square compared to everything. But, of course, I did reach the build limit before anything wacky went on, so I just left it. You see the original Cloverleaf design that has partially been disassembled. Like, if you get closer, you see that this ramp is, you can't use it because it's one way out in both directions. So, and this has been cut off entirely. So, I wanted to keep the original pieces of the ramp, but block them off when they were no longer needed. So that's what you got going on here. So we have a nice multi-level stack that gets you here. And of course, this highway devolves into a surface level ring road that goes around our stuff. It's a very square, very standard, boring kind of thing, but I presume if you live down here, it kind of looks okay. And you might be wondering, what's with this thing here? Well, that was the hard limit of the city at one point. And once again, I did seek to expand here. This was the result of a possible new hill that would have been similar to the other hills that I made, but it never happened. This comes along here. We have a forestry district. And now that we've talked about this road, we will talk about this outer highway. This existed from before the city was built. So this highway sort of blithely ignores everything else. It is used by people going through the city as much as it is people accessing the city. So you have our outer beltway here. And this is kind of a cool vista. This is a very major way through. So this is a high capacity interchange. This over here was meant to be a park at some point, but I decided to turn it into a bus, like sort of a transportation hub. And you know, it works, but it just looks kind of funky. So all this was built very early on, anticipating high capacity, which exists in some areas, doesn't in others. And then over here is one of the other main roads. This is one of the other main ways into our main city, and you can see as soon as you come in here, there are just options galore. You curve around here, you have our forestry district, and this is more long-range traffic. Like I said, a lot of people leaving the city, a lot of people going between our major hubs. And so over here you have this. Oh, it's ugly. It is ugly. Oh no. What is happening here? What is this? What is that? What is any of this? Well, as you might imagine, I anticipated being able to build another hill up here and another urban area. So this was the start of an interchange that I predicted would continue on this highway, but of course it never was. So it just lives as an ugly little spur here. But that's what that was not to be. This continues off into the distance. We have a very remote place with a big old solar power plant. This is the kind that like birds get zapped by and airplanes get blinded by, but we have it. what's over here? We have recycling hubs, and then this road leaves our city. And then we have connections to other things. I haven't even talked about this area, but we'll get to it later on. We're building our way outwards. Like, this city is so big that to fully explain it is going to take a video the size of a movie, which is what you're watching right now. And I'm sorry / you're welcome, depending. So I want to emphasize right now that up until this point, I've mainly been focusing on this quadrant of the city. Like, just this corner here, because that's the oldest, it's the biggest, and if I don't break this down into parts, it's going to get really wacky. So that's everything. That's an overview of all the major highways in this area. And now there are a few other ones that we can talk about here. For example, this here is a smaller highway that just connects things. Like I said, it begins in the downtown, and one thing, a lot of industrial vehicles will actually come through here, cut through this downtown area to come here, which isn't ideal, but with enough work, it actually became manageable. So it is actually not a big problem whatsoever. So this comes down here in a wacky interchange with our inner beltway. Of course, we have local exits and we have plenty of monorails. So that goes on, and we have this crazy ramp system that brings us straight back to our cargo hub. We have here a surface highway that functions as a cloverleaf thing here. And this is one of our other outlying downtowns. It's funny, we have a lot of Warren-like crazy areas, but we also have these spread out flat downtown areas. So we have a lot of variety in this city. Like, this city is, I don't know, it feels like this could be Texas or something. It's kind of low density, but also has a lot of skyscrapers, a lot of open lands, a lot of roads. We have some hubs here for monorails and such. And like I said, this highway comes down here, and then it has a complex system of ramps with our outer beltway and our boulevard that goes out here. And over here we have one of our trash hubs. We have multiple trash hubs in this city. This one being, it's kind of funny because, like, this isn't a major highway, so I don't really mind these roads meeting at grade and just having sharp right turns. The game isn't really affected by this. Like, in real life, this would be a disaster, but in the world of the game, it's actually not a big deal. So just having this little setup with the recycling center and some of these guys, it works out pretty well. So originally, this highway went all the way here, but I decided that it did not need to be that big all the way through. So this highway merely goes to here, where it turns into a surface level road, and then doesn't even become a highway at all. It just becomes a road. And then I was able to develop this area, and as you can see, it doesn't conform to the grid because it was put in later. It was converted later, I should say, and ends in this square here with the outer road of the city. Yeah, can you see why I thought this was necessary? There is just a lot going on here. But anyway, yeah, this is also how I managed to get a few more roads back to get below the cap and build other things, because I could just rip out some unnecessary stuff, lower the density of ramps, because this used to go over and have its own ramp, but now it's just a surface intersection. So there's that little highway. And let's see, are there any other little highways that I haven't mentioned? I mean, there's like things like this that are just extended ramps where I anticipated a lot more traffic than it ended up happening. So those don't really count for anything. Oh yeah, this this guy over here. This was kind of fun because, once again, this was built when this area was completely undeveloped, and this used to have just a bunch of at-grade intersections. But over time, I've had to replace some of them. So this begins at a roundabout with our boulevard. It continues until this wacky kind of, I don't even know what you'd call it, with the this other highway that goes up to our main area. Now, this actually fully functions. You can go every direction here. It's just a little bit inefficient. But the thing is, the traffic volumes in this area are not that extreme, so it doesn't matter if it's a bit inefficient. And in fact, you have something kind of like this in downtown Poughkeepsie, New York. Go on Google Maps and look at it. It exists. So this continues, and at one point this used to be just go all the way through, but with the help of a lane selector, I actually managed to make this a lot more efficient. So that is how you do something like that on a road like this. We do have pedestrian overpasses. Most of my pedestrian overpasses are busy. This one isn't so much, but most of the other ones are busy. And we have this crazy road, which, believe it or not, it does mark out the path of where that initial elevated highway was. So part of it still exists as a surface road, and I thought I would have to upgrade this at some point, but I've never had to. It's worked efficiently enough that I've been able to keep it. And as you can see, you just go down a little bit and this ends. So it doesn't really go anywhere. But over here is the area with the biggest traffic. So this used to be configured in a very different way. And at one point it just ended here. It didn't even reach this highway. And it turned into a highway that I built in this other section. But as you can see, the roundabout was necessary for traffic volumes. It seems like it's not so much now, but, you know, population and use fluctuates over time, so it's what I've had to do. And then it does continue off into the newer area. But like I said, we're keeping it in this quadrant for now. We'll talk about those areas later on. So here's a view of the city at night. Like, it's kind of interesting. You go out to here, it looks like a mess, but it doesn't look as huge as it does as when you do this. Like, this just makes it look vast. This makes the city look ridiculous in size. I mean, look at that. That is like wallpaper. This could be, I'm going to press F12. I'm going to take a screenshot of that. This could totally be our, what's it called? Thumbnail. In fact, let's just sit here for a minute and take it in. It's like you feel a little proud and you feel a little silly because this doesn't actually do anything in the world. You know, this doesn't give anyone a better life, not yourself or anyone else. It doesn't providing housing for anyone. It doesn't do any meaningful work. It's just code being represented through graphics. But on the other hand, you look at something like this, and I think to myself, I put down every one of these roads and rails by hand. I zoned every piece of terrain. Like, I built this all. Like, this was all done by me. It wasn't procedurally generated. It wasn't AI created. It wasn't, you know, I didn't have a team of people. I just built this myself over the course of many months. And you sit back and look at it, and it's like, yeah, it's kind of cool. I don't know. I think it's kind of cool. I hope you do too. I mean, if you think that this is impossibly lame, I can't blame you. I mean, it's both of those things at once. So that's what that is. Okay, not to get philosophical or anything. So anyway, let's talk about some of the other little boulevards and little routes we have going on here. I have to reorient myself to go, well, we already talked about this one a little bit. This one that goes like this. If you look here, like I said, this was the road that comes in. And at one point, this highway used to come over here and have a partially destroyed interchange here before I removed it entirely. So it connects. You have this wide sweeping surface boulevard, which is a, like many things in here, is a monorail route. So that's that. It starts here. It has this intersection here with Jersey-style jug handles because I anticipated much higher traffic, and in fact, it probably still does need them. So it goes through over here, and in fact, there are no left turns over the entire thing. It does have Jersey-style jug handles, and see, it's still justified. Its existence is still needed because traffic is fairly decent on it. So it goes up over here when it ends, and we have this system of local roads, Texas-style local roads on the side of the expressway over here. So that's Little Boulevard covered. And now let's hop over to the River Boulevard. We have a few of them in the city. So to explain that, we'll just look along the river to start. Ah, look at that. Yeah, if this was real life, I would prefer to have like parks and stuff along the river. But this is sort of like this whole city is stuck in a previous era of urban development, if you will. So we'll start over here where it's actually not alongside the river. As I said, this highway was first, and this was second, this was third, and it just sort of ended here. It just sort of ended. And I connected it to the River Boulevard. So you might ask, what is this? Well, all this was a compromise kind of thing to get traffic into and out of all the industry that we have going on here. Kind of nuts. So all this here actually turns left. There's no straight involved. And if I click on this, you can see that this is actually a timed traffic light. And it actually covers this and that intersection, because this is one of the many bottlenecks that exist in this area. So in order to have everything flow nicely, but also have minimum invasiveness, I had to resort to this. But it functions quite well. And if you look closely enough, you can see that this inner original road is only to access the inside, because everything else, this and this, are bypasses for that. So we get to our main boulevard here, and this part isn't too scenic. It's just this straight Jersey-style thing that cuts through with jug handles. In fact, there are no turns whatsoever right here because the jug handles help all the turns. And speaking of timed intersections, I have the mother over here. Like, these 7 traffic lights are all in sync with one another, and they all have their own times to go. They have complete lane selection. This is the kind of stuff that you do when you are unemployed or underemployed, as I was for a good chunk of this. No longer, I might add. I've just got a new job, so things are changing. But for a while, I had a lot of time on my hands. So this is the kind of stuff you do. You just do stuff like this, and you're probably asking, is this guy on the spectrum or something? Look at all this. And the answer is, maybe. I might be a little bit. I don't know. But anyway, this is pretty efficient, actually. It works out pretty well. So this goes over here where it crosses a railroad track. And once it crosses the railroad track, there is a pseudo exit kind of thing. This is like right angles, but because you can't cross over. And this is completely dark, unless we shine the light. But over here, this is another one of our trash slash industrial slash, well, it's a slash trash and industrial. So it has its own way to access all this. Pretty cool. So we have a nice little neighborhood here. This was sort of like, you know, speaking of Jersey style, it's like we're going to just slam anything into any, there's like a wedge of space left over. So we're going to slam something into here. So this crosses over, becomes a pseudo expressway, and we have, if I'm not mistaken, okay, it's not a timed traffic light, but it is heavily lane selected. So that's our way in, and this boulevard becomes one of our, actually no, it doesn't become one of our main boulevards in this area. But yeah, wow, that is blinding. Look at the morning light reflecting off of all these buildings. Once again, you just want to sit and look at it. I tell you what, this is like very mid-century modernist kind of architecture that this game has. So I don't know if this is cool looking or ugly, but when put all together like this, it kind of gives a good view. Like this river, a lot of bridges, a lot of stuff going on. So where were we? Oh yeah, over here, this becomes an actual rivered boulevard. It loses its other lane and becomes a just a one lane in each direction kind of road. But it also has no more intersections, no more traffic lights, at least in this area. So we zip along, and there are ways to get sort of one way up here, and sometimes you get these crazy slopes, but this is a way to access this city, and this is a way to come down here. And so the boulevard continues, and we have sort of wacky things here. We have a surface avenue connection to our city over here, which we will get to very shortly. So we have ways of getting up here. It's kind of indirect, because I didn't want everything to be just sort of slammed into here, but if you want to get up to here, you would presumably not be using this, because this is mainly to access areas that are already on this side of the river. So if you look carefully here, you have, this just goes straight through. So that way it's a two-cycle light kind of thing going over here. And when you get over here, I actually had to have this sort of split off and do these things. And there's underground roads. Like, this was a huge disaster, so I had to have a ramp bypassing it all. So yeah, this city was very practical minded. Like, there wasn't much, like, aesthetics were a very distant concern for the city compared to everything else that we have going on here. So once all this drama goes, we just have a nice little road continuing. It has its own ways of getting on the highway. For the longest time, like I said, the city did stop after this highway. So for the longest time, this was it. It just ended here. But it continued here. And since we are going to talk about this quadrant next, probably, we can talk about this. This area isn't hugely, doesn't have a huge amount of traffic, so I was able to just have these at grade intersections, and it works decently fine. So that's fine. And it has a little directional thing going over here. There used to be one big roundabout over here. It was almost as big as this one, but it really wasn't necessary. There wasn't enough traffic to justify it. So I ripped it up, and I used the space to have more farms. So that goes here, and there's ways of getting here and there one way. And then we have this other highway, which we'll talk about shortly. But we have a roundabout here and a roundabout here. It's overbuilt. It probably doesn't need to be this much, but it functions. It's not bad. And then it just goes a little bit more before becoming just another surface street in what is this area down here. So that is something to talk about in a little bit. But we've pretty much covered all of the major roadways in this area. So before we move on to any of the other sections of the city, I think it's fun just to like come and look at some of the craziness that we have going on up the hill. Like, this city is very varied in the kind of stuff that we have. So, like I said, it's built on a hill which is steeper in some areas than others. We have monorail lines, and I like this. I just like these switchbacks and these crazy little things that go up here. So, coming up and down these hills, at one point I just built these long green things, and sometimes they weren't the fastest route. Like, for instance, there's no reason that anyone would ever go all the way around on this when they can just, use any number of shorter routes. But it's just fun to look at, isn't it? Like, all this craziness, all of these things. And in fact, right here, this humble spot right here is the central intersection where this entire city began. It began from there and just sparked outwards. Like, these are some of the oldest buildings in the city. This was the main rail station of the city. As you can see, it goes down the hill to our hub, and I believe this one connects to, this one is the trains that leave the city. You can see this is the main road, the main railroad that goes out of the city. So, that was the start of all of it. That was everything. And I just love like seeing all the various wacky things that I've done over the years, over the 2 years. And I like how these begin, and they just spiral outwards, and they become bigger things, or they connect to bigger things, and it's just really enjoyable to me. I like how you have pure chaos, goes into semi-chaos, and then goes into like order and precision. Like, all this was created to alleviate traffic and not be so crazy. And you'll see things like this too. Like, we have a grid pattern here, and this grid does expand somewhat into there. I've always liked, for whatever reason, the aesthetics of this. You have like this one road here that's part of this grid pattern that exists briefly up here. Then you have this wide, sweeping, crazy thing that eventually settles into the grid pattern over here. And then you have this road, which is purely part of that grid pattern, and they just all come in together and form a little thing. It's just very cute. I just like it. I like it when you have grid patterns that randomly sputter out into chaos. And that's what we have a lot of going on here. A lot of chaos sputtering. And then over here, which we'll get to very soon, because this is the next area we'll be talking about, we have a grid here, we have a grid here, we have moments where the grids intersect at different ways. It's just really fun. We have other grids, we have yet more grids, we have spirals, and this is where I started to get more experimental with building things out. But like I said, we'll talk about that next. It just makes me happy. I hope it makes you happy too. But yes, now it's time to talk about this area, because at one point this road here was the boundary of anything developed, and even this area here didn't exist. So I slowly started building it out to here. I love this little grid and how it doesn't exactly line up with everything. One thing that's fun to do is try to figure out like where these grids came from. Like, what was the first road in this grid, and it's hard to tell. This is one of the last little bottlenecks that still exist, but it seems to be not so bad. And we have several trash hubs in our city. This is one of them. So everything beyond this road is part of something new. So you'll see a few dynamics going on. I wanted to have like a little downtown area, but I wanted this to be mainly low density. So you'll have low density, and you see little pockets of high density. This actually came after I hit the build limit. After I hit the build limit, I decided I still wanted the city to grow, so I randomly went around and randomly went to different parts of the map and picked individual blocks to upzone into high density. So this area used to all be low density, but you have little pockets here where that's upzoned, and that's pretty much true for the entire city. And the reason I did it that way is because I wanted just the merest of, a little, just the merest uptick in development as things go on. But yeah, you can see I laid out some grids here, multiple grids intersecting. Very nice. My Philly soul is very satisfied by this, because that's something you have in Philly a lot. Multiple different grids interacting with one another. I remember this used to be just by itself with nothing else around it, because I needed an area to offload a lot of the industrial demand to, so this became it. And gradually it became swallowed up by the city. And as I built outwards, at one point, as you can see if I go to this map, this green road up here, it'll be easier if I actually show it from this point of view. Yeah, this used to be the edge of the city. So I built this here, and eventually it went even longer, but I cut it off here because I don't want, too much of the outlines of the borders, of the old borders. But this was a little wacky road, and I decided, let's make a spiral. So I decided to do that, and at first, just this half of the spiral was here, because this half of the city didn't exist yet. So we have the green road going out here, we have the green road going out here, and we have this central boulevard, which just goes in the middle. And I wanted to make it high density along the boulevards, and then low density outwards. So this was kind of fun to do, because you have, once again, order going off into chaos. Now, this is all very orderly. These roads come off at tangents at various points, but eventually it just comes into chaos. Like this road comes over here, where suddenly it becomes a series of things that just dumps off into this area that already existed well before anything else. So it's pretty cool. And like I said, we have this random, I'm not sure how this urban area existed on dirt roads. I really don't know how and when this happened, but it did happen, and it's pretty cool. So let's talk about some of the major highways that come through here. First of all, let's talk about this one. This one connects to this area, which we still haven't talked about and still will, but it was meant to be sort of the main highway of the area, and I didn't feel like having it mar up everything that I was going to build, so it plunged underground. And as you can see, it just has a number of exits that come out here, and it doesn't actually connect to anything in terms of other highways, except for this one, I guess. But I wanted this to be some sort of grand downtown, but it never really became that. It's just sort of stuck in this halfway developed stage, and I probably could do better with lane selections over here, but my whole approach to urban planning, I do have it. Well, I could do better still, but my whole approach to urban planning and this whole thing was, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So if things are humming along, I generally don't change them. But yeah, this was originally two boulevards that went out in parallel, but there wasn't enough traffic to justify it, so I cut it down just to this one avenue, which comes through here and sputters out into here. So one thing you'll notice in this area is it's a grid that's interrupted by these sweeping roads. I built the sweeping roads first and then put the grid over top of it. And as you can see, these wide roads are all lined with commercial, and the grid little streets are all residential. So you have this nice little hybrid here, and it actually works fairly well. And you have cute little things here where you have things meeting but not quite meeting, so I decided on a three-way little triangular roundabout kind of crazy, wacky thingamic thing. But yeah, we have another example of different grids intersecting. Like we have like a small hub here with its own grid, but this road existed before the grid. In fact, it's part of this grid. So we have remnants of other grids in other areas. It's just craziness. And we have, it's actually easier to see it from the zone view for whatever reason, but we have this whole grid which aligns with this boulevard. And then we have this grid which aligns with this and that. And yeah, we have some nice little roads here. You can even see this is a monorail route. We'll look over the monorail lines later on, but in this view you can also see that this area is served by buses. These are all bus lines. So I felt it didn't have enough traffic to justify putting in all sorts of rails, so it's served by buses. Let's look at some of our other major roads. We already talked about this highway here, which comes underground. So I think the most logical thing would be to talk about this. Although, let's talk about the elephant in the room first. Look at all this. You see this here? It looks bad. It used to be a million times worse. And there's another industrial park over here. So all of this exists to solve very specific problems that happened at very specific times. It looks crazy, but it's only stupid if it doesn't work. And all this works to move traffic. You can see that these ramps exist to move traffic towards the highway up here. These ramps also serve to move traffic towards the highway. For whatever reason, traffic from the highway isn't such of a problem, so they never had to have anything like that. But yeah, these are some of the things that we have here. And yeah, this little network of shortcut ramps is bigger than one might think. And if we zoom around, we might see other things. Like that's actually a subway line. It's not an example of this. But yeah, we'll see other examples other places. So what we have here is, remember our pseudo hybrid surface boulevard expressway combination in the previous area of the city? Well, it originally stopped over here, but it continues now, and its continuation I decided to build as a full grade separated expressway because it made sense. And it's not one of the more busy ones. In fact, it could be turned into Super 2 or maybe even a surface road. It's something that I might consider in the future if I so decide to continue developing the city. But you see, it continues. It has ramps. This random little urbanized area over here. It does a little jog. I always like how sometimes I can form expressways to fit grids. Sometimes I have to have them do interesting things like this little jog to get it within bounds. And you see you have another Texas-style local road thing here. And then it ends. Like I said, I wanted this to be a wide sweeping area. It never really panned out. Like, you look here, and it's like, yeah, why is this road the way it is? There's no reason for it, but at one point, I wanted it to be grand, so that was the reason. Oh, look, this is a nuclear power plant right downtown. I'm sure that makes everyone a little bit nervous. But originally, this highway and this highway just ended here. But there was enough traffic that I decided that there was a need to have these connected. But yep, this highway ends over here. So if you look at it in totality, it goes from here, snakes up through here, and ends at this roundabout. It's just this weird little hybrid. And also, I was having problems with traffic in this area. So we have this highway, which was totally an afterthought. It had to be built to fit into the area. So as you can see, there are some ramps going all the way back over here because this was a huge bottleneck at one point. But this highway has very convoluted entrance and exit ramp to get onto it because of how crazy it is. But it all makes sense because of where the traffic is starting and where it needs to go. So there's a reason behind all of it. And we have a wacky thing here. I wanted to avoid demolishing as much as I could. And for whatever particular reason, the only way I could do that in this area... Oh, look, another nuclear power plant. But yeah, the only way I could do that in this area was to have this lane cross over the other and then cross back over it above it. It is one of the wackiest little things I've done. But you see here, it comes in, it actually kind of it doesn't conform to this curve, but it conforms to this outer curve that might have been, I'm pretty sure this was built at one point to just be a thing, but I made it go along here. We have some other ramps which are very strange looking, but I promise at one point they made sense. And then they cross over the boulevard, they have an exit here, and then it ends in this roundabout, which once again, roundabouts like this have to be lane selected or they will all use the same lanes, and it's a major problem. So there are many ways for the traffic to go, and that is how this little highway ends. It ends in a roundabout, has a few exits, curves around, goes over and under itself, and then ends in a series of wacky things. Like, if you look at the zoning in this area, you'll see that there are a number of major industrial zones around here, and that contributed towards the extreme traffic on this road. Like, originally this was just a, point and click curve, kind of road. But as time went on, all this had to be made. And it was made. So, let me think. Are there any other highways worth showing? I think that's pretty much all the highways. This area mainly focuses on... There's a lot of surface boulevards, a lot of bike routes. Bike routes are OP in this game, so I try to build them wherever I can. And so you can see that traffic has a good way of getting around. I remember, I just love the chaos of this, so I wanted to build it in a way that all this would continue. So I have this road, just ramp over here. Is it necessary? Not at all, but I love it anyway. I just love seeing all the grids interact, and then this monorail line on a boulevard just weaving its way through, conforming to various grids or going between them. And this is actually the middle of an intersection. You'll never know unless you look at the underground view. But yeah, there is a exit here, so this whole thing is actually in the middle of a highway. It's quite funny. It has red on top. I don't know if that's because it's sick or because it's just highly developed. But yeah, we have good things here. And we can see the sunrise. It's a hazy morning in our city. Pretty, isn't it? I like it. It is nice. And like we said, this is the beginning of our River Boulevard. So we've pretty much covered everything that is in this half of the city. Now we are going to move on to this area. Smaller, yet still very large. So this part of the city was obviously built later, and you might be wondering what part came first. And if you remember, when we were back over here, I said it was up here, so it's natural to think that it might be something over here, but actually no, it was just across the river from here. I wanted an area to be basically the mirror image of what you see here, and this was always meant to be a direct way. I didn't want to have like a million bridges crossing over, so I only have a few at certain select intervals. And the fact that I managed to make a 2-lane a side regular surface level avenue bridge and have it function is pretty cool. Originally, when I built it, I didn't have any direct connection to this river boulevard, but it turned out to be very much necessary when the traffic started to build up. So you can see here that very unlike the other side of the world, this is all built on a pretty strict grid, at least this part of the new area. So we have a nice boulevard. I just pretty much one long line that goes right along the water, and then we have a river boulevard, and we have a continuation of various suburban type things, and yet random upscaled areas over here. This area was actually empty for a while, and then a developer came in here and just put a bunch of little towers. So we have a pretty standard flat thing here. Now if we go to the map, we see that there is a distinct line here, because at one point I only built the city out to here, and then on this side I decided to get more creative. I mean, your eyes is naturally drawn to this fan-shaped thing, and you might be wondering, what is with that? Well, I started at this origin point, and every 10 degrees I would create another road. So we have roads fanning out from the central point. They don't quite make it there because it's just too much, but you have some absolutely wacky connections over here. And to get out of this weirdness, you either come over here or over here. But this fans out, and I wanted to build another centralized downtown place. And the funny thing is, these fanned out things continue on the other side of the downtown. Like, I made it before I built the downtown. Even this one, this little guy, has a continuation over here. And then I did something similar here, where instead of having a central point where they all started from, every certain number of blocks, I would start a new one, but it would be 10 degrees further tilted. And I think that even includes this this avenue here. So we have that situation going on, and it results in some pretty interesting shaped blocks over here. I just love this. I just love looking at how these blocks turned out. And makes for some pretty interesting suburbia. And all the space in between is filled in by, little smaller minor streets and such. Of course, here we have a 64 block square secondary downtown, which actually has its own district. I haven't cared too much about districts when making this city, but put a district here. So you got 18,000 people living here, which honestly is kind of small compared to the city as a whole, but is a pretty decent chunk of humans. So we have an avenue going around, and we have some monorail stations. And I'm not sure what happened here. Sometimes I just decided to go completely rogue and do whatever I wanted and just see what would happen. Originally, I had all these continue out into the desert here, but once I reached the build limit, it was time to delete a whole bunch of the extra roads that didn't actually get used. So you have this large gap between this and that, and so that's what that had to be. So that is the world that is to this side of the line. And I also decided to put a extended forestry thing over here. So also here, I decided to have the highway split into and have a nice little small but unique spot where you have these, I think it's like the high-tech buildings or whatever policy I have there. Yeah, self-sufficient buildings. So a little hub. I almost wanted this to be its own little downtown, but of course it's way too small to be anything of any significant size. So we have little continuations of things here. We have just little blocks of areas that just never fully got urbanized, never got built up. In fact, I think that even this, yeah, it's unpowered because nothing ever. They just like go on through and don't bother to let anyone off there. So we cross over here, and in this area, we have another couple of downtowns type places, some urbanization here, and a final. This is pretty much the final urban area here, with a large surface thingy thing just cutting straight through it and spoiling everyone's fun, or enhancing it. I don't know, but yeah, I like this random little cluster of buildings. That might have been one of the upzone things I did, but I continued with my idea of making hills, and this hill was another centralized thing I wanted to do, and it's very steep on this side. I wanted to have a park where you could just sit up here and take in the view. And what a view it is. You just sit up here with your sweetie, or maybe just on your own, sit back and just take it all in. Just endless. Yeah, the city really does look endless from up here. It's quite the sight. I love how you can even click on things over here and know what they are. So that is our main downtown, and for this side of the world at least. And we were going to build a another one up here, but we were in the middle of building this when the limit was reached. So it's kind of abortive. And there's a whole bunch of stuff out here, which you can see how my thought process was working. I was starting to fill out some of the development that was to come, but never happened. And now I don't know what the future is or how much we really have to work with. Because originally this large boulevard here, it's the central boulevard for our little square here. It actually begins all the way back here. It comes all the way through and eventually went all the way down here. You can even see where it used to go. But as soon as I reached the build limit, I figured there was no reason for it to go all the way there. So it unceremoniously terminates right here. But it's still very useful for all this. Of course, we have a huge industrial zone that sort of wraps around here. And it's a pretty convenient area because it is by this highway. This highway is the lifeblood of this area. And there have been so many problems in the past that I have had to do some lane selection here. This area where I don't have lane selection is a little chaotic, but it's not quite busy enough for it to be a problem, so I didn't think of doing that. So we have this here. We have a road on the edge of the city also, which is very important. We have a secondary airport here, which is much smaller than the first. But we have a lot of industry and a lot of little roads to connect everything up. One thing I like here is that there is a surface street that runs under the highway between it. And it helps shuffle people around. So that's pretty much the outline of this area. So if we want to stick with with what we did before and go through the highways, we have our main highway, which of course crosses the river here. If we start here, you see it just goes endlessly off into the desert. It comes into our city, and we first have a ramp with the outer road, which I kind of like this little, it's pretty efficient how this works. It's like a big old roundabout, except it's not really a roundabout. But we have its lane selected over here, so it's pretty efficient. It gets everyone through. And then, of course, we have a number of conventional exits, with the exception of we have this local road that runs in the middle, and it's actually highly useful and highly used. So we have this is actually, I think, a central park, yeah. We have a central park right in the middle of our area here. So that is perfect for people to use and to enjoy. And this continues. It's a very busy highway. and it came before everything. I did consider like rerouting it or making it so it doesn't just go straight through everything, but I think it actually is very good and efficient. We have multiple forms of transportation here. The local road even crosses it, and then we have this monstrosity of an interchange. Now, I anticipated this being a lot busier than it is, and yeah, it's pretty busy. But I anticipated people going nuts on all these ramps, and especially this. For some reason, I thought this was going to be a lot crazier than it was. So it's a tad overbuilt, but I kind of love it still. So, of course, this comes up here, goes around this central thing, and crosses the river. And just to recap, it becomes the surface level thing, goes under the airport, makes a right turn, and then becomes our inner beltway, which curves back around and ends over here. So that's who that guy is. Now we do have a few other highways. I did tell you about this intersection, this crappy cutoff intersection. Well, this was sort of the main way through this square and boring section. So it's mainly square and boring, except for right here. There's some interesting stuff going on, but we'll talk about that when we get to this little boulevard. So it continues. If you look, it actually isn't at right angles to the street pattern in this area. It's a little bit off center. So OCD people are going to be a little bit frustrated with that, but it functions very well. And then it meets its end in this crazy spaghetti nonsense. So now we have this road. This highway, which, to recap, was the one that goes underground here, pops up over here, has some crazy intersections, and we might as well just stop and watch the sunset for a minute before we pay attention to where this highway goes in the other world, because it's very nice. You can even see planes landing in the distance. It's quite cool. I really do love this. But yeah, these bridges at night are very cool. And I thought this highway would be a lot bigger than what it ended up being, but it still is pretty useful. So it comes over here, has this very complex set of interchanges with the local thing. And so is this one, by the way. So we have a bunch of local interchanges, and then it loops around, and it's more conventional at first in this area. I had to do this for space constraints. It almost looks like, oh no, it's intersecting with a surface road, but if you look at the lane selections, it actually just concerns the left lane. Like everyone else, it doesn't matter. They can accelerate and decelerate and then merge, just like they're doing here. So this continues further on. It goes more or less conventionally in this area until, of course, it hits this craziness. So this is another worthy screenshot right here. In fact, we might just chill out and watch this for a minute. So yeah, this continues through here. And once this craziness ends, it becomes more or less conventional. I had this branch out to here. So this becomes this boulevard. And it gets a little bit wacky out here because we have some one-way kind of things going on here. But you can, of course, cut over if you really need to use other lanes. But then we come to our major downtown. And when I was building this, once I got to this point, I realized this highway is never going to be necessary to carry all the way through. Even this area, it's overbuilt for what it is. So it went up and over part of the fan that we have going on here. And then it got narrower. And then it comes down to become a this sort of pseudo expressway before becoming a regular surface road. Oh yes, and you can see by the amount of traffic this area gets, it was not necessary to keep this as an expressway going all the way through here. I mean, this is perfectly fine what we have going on here. So this continues on through here and goes over some stuff, goes over this railroad track, and then turns to move up the river. It has a few more intersections, and then it ends here. This is the point where this large boulevard and this little highway intersect and become one thing. And that one thing will just be a little bit of a zippy, dippy little guy who only needs to be one lane in each direction, connecting to the outermost road of our area. So those are the main expressways, and we can even go into night mode and see there's still like some areas that could be zoned, could be developed, but it's okay. And yes, I know that the population has been plunging since we have started the tour. We've lost like 40,000 people, but this is how this game works, actually. Like, it goes through waves. I've had it go from like 480 down to like 350 and then back up again. It's really wacky. I don't fully understand what's going on, but I think legitimately people are just dying to death, you know? They're just dying a lot, but what can you do? Death and life. It's part of life, I guess. So anyway, let's talk about some of the river boulevards and things that we have going on here. Because you remember we talked about the one on this side of the river, which is pretty nice and efficient. Now we have its twin over here. And so the question is, where do we begin? Let's begin up here. Like I said, it cuts through Mulberry Heights, and it turns into the outer road here. So this is a good enough place to start because it just loops around. So we'll start here. And as you can see, it's pretty much a straight line through the city until you get to this part. Then it kind of curves a little bit, interacts with the main boulevard. Once again, this boulevard goes just all the way through this part of the city. It goes over here, it curves. Actually, no, this is the one that goes through here. These are two different ones. But be that as it may, our river thing comes actually to the river over here. I like this cathedral planet. It's like a brutalist cathedral. It's ugly, but kind of cool. I like these buildings. This might actually be our, it's our tech sector. So, oh yeah, we have dead people zone over here. But anyway, this goes here, and as soon as we cross this intersection, it becomes a pseudo expressway. As you can see, we have a kind of a trumpet interchange in a way, and this is actually a shortcut to get up here because once again, it was built to solve a particular problem. So, very much controlled what goes where, who goes to what location. So we have a lot of these little one-way things so that people aren't necessarily just cutting through down here. And now we have it going under a lot of stuff. And then we come to our first crazy interchange with one of the highways. One thing I wanted to do was have it completely cross over before any exits happened. So you have actually 4 ways to go when you go here, and you have 4 ways to get on over here. You actually have to go up and over and around. It's kind of nuts. So we have this bit of wackiness. We have a series of exits. I like to, on a lot of things like this, I like to decentralize things instead of things coming directly all into one spot. You can see there's like 4 different roads, each of them connecting to one of the directions of this guy. So over here, we have another one. This one actually does have ramps, a thing before, and we have a glitched out we have a glitched out bridge, which has been like this for a very long time. This is not how suspension bridges work. I mean, this holds up the cable, not the other way around, so this would actually collapse in real life. So it's quite funny to see. But yeah, this is our main expressway of the area coming in. And as you can see, a great majority of traffic on here actually is using these ramps. Only some of it is going through. Most of it is getting on or off. And like I said, there's another site where we're doing the 4 thing. And over here, like I said, it interacts with our two-way, 2-lane aside Surface Street Boulevard. And it used to be that traffic wanting to use this bridge would have to get off here or here, but I decided, nope, it was just too much. So we have this road coming on here, we have this road coming off here both ways, and if you wanted to get it, and you still have to kind of do this to get onto here, but that is a relatively minor thing to do compared to everything else, so that is fine. And it continues pretty peacefully along here. We have one last thingy thing going on here before we cross under all of our rail tracks, and this makes an abrupt 90-degree turn, drops down to 1 lane aside, and becomes the boulevard on this river. And I really do like this change of character. It goes through a very sharp turn, and then it has a very different character over here. Now, you remember, this all has a pretty strict grid over here, but this area is sort of working on its own rules. It has its own grid. So this is a major thing for trucking, and it has its own little quirky ways to get around. Like, you have to loop around here to get over the bridge, and you have to loop around here to get onto the highway from this side. The other side has a couple ramps. We have a road going over here, which we have some ramps on this side only because there's not enough room on this side. But you look over here, now we have ramps on this side. And this one is actually built like a it's like a two-way street, but it's not like an expressway thing. There's a lot of weird little hybrid things here, and so this is a very funny one. Now, this exit here, this whole interchange, you can tell this was one of those things that used to have a lot of problems, and I had to work on it a bit. And we have a crazy curve over here, but it functions. And these arrows, we have multiple lanes getting people places. You see we have lane selectors going on. Let me show you that. Yeah, we have lane selectors getting people down here and around there. And over here we have the first turn across traffic. But as you can see, by the time you're here, the traffic goes down quite a bit. This used to be an at-grade intersection. This used to be a 4-way intersection here, and it was terrifically backed up. So I had to resort to keeping this grade separated and adding in these ramps connecting up here. This is one of those things that looks silly, but was necessary. Because when this was an at-grade intersection and this was the only ramp, it was a nightmare. Now we skip over here, and we have this drama going on. But as you can see, it does turn into a surface road and indeed come to an end in this area. So that is that. Now to explain everything else, we already talked about these roads, and over here we have our road that buzzes the outside of the world. Now I built this road to resemble in some ways, remember a million years ago when I told you about the little road that comes like through here? Sometimes I forget it's all part of the same city because it's like so big, they're so far apart, and the vibe is just really different. But we have a road going around the edge of the map. Now, it starts over here by this industrial center. We have a little roundabout, and I believe this used to be a little bit different. What the heck? Oh. Geothermal plant burned down. Sucks to suck. anyway, this goes across the river in a and this is the first way into this part of the city until you get over here, but it still works out here. So we have basically a one-way system of ramps with a really crazy turn here, but the traffic is light enough that this actually works a-okay without any kind of problems. It goes over our railroad, then it comes in here. And like I said, if it's not broke, don't fix it. This is silly. I admit it's silly, but there's not enough traffic for this to be a backup, so it's just a regular old T. This, of course, going into our area here. And there are no roads connecting. At one point, there were all sorts of roads coming down, but then I decided they don't need to exist because I hit the road limit and I wanted to save roads for other areas. So this road continues, and we have a Jersey style jug handle kind of thing going on here. This is the main road of actually this entire area. This is the same road that connects back to the other world, so it's worth looking at. Like, it goes by this industrial park, the airport. It becomes the main road through this little downtown area, crosses over the highway, has its own exit, goes near the origin of the fan, crosses over this highway. It's a pretty quiet road for most of its length, but as soon as we get to this area, it starts to pick up all that traffic. And then it crosses over to the other world, briefly goes through our downtown, and then it goes and becomes just a regular old little road and stops. Oh yes, it's very cute. But anyway, let's talk about what happens over here. The road continues, and then it goes into our sort of little donut fishbone kind of thing we have going on over here. And this works very efficiently. It's also the first exit for people coming in from this way too. And there's 3 different ways to get off here, not counting continuing on. And before we continue, we really have to do something about all of the death that we have going on. So if you would excuse me for a second, we're going to go ahead and do some things. There we go. And if you noticed, we have butt up against the road limit again. Just making these few roads and water pipes was enough. So that is that. And now we get to watch all the hearses pull out of here. So this is a good time-lapse opportunity. Well, that was fun, wasn't it? That took almost 5 real in-game minutes. I feel like we need some sort of upgrade, though. So, well, see, we have reached the limit, so we have to find more to destroy. Find more to rip up that we aren't using. Like this, for instance. Like, Do we need this road? No, we don't. So we'll rip that up, and that will give us just a little bit more cap space to do this. Even though we're not adding, it's like when we're at maximum, it won't do anything for us. And when we do something like that, we have to fix the lane assignments. Because you never know with these things. There. And now that should run a bit more efficiently. Anyway, where were we before that little detour? Oh yeah, we were talking about this and how this sends people in different directions. And over here we have the start of this avenue, which goes through an industrial area. We have another avenue that sort of just is a diagonal cut over here. And we have a funny little fishbone kind of thing going on here, connecting people to various areas. And you see, this is what we were going to be building on before this all happened. And this is actually pretty well used. Going all the way around, making a right turn, going over the railroad tracks, and then a pseudo expressway type exit with this industrial zone. Another one of these pseudo roundabout kind of things. Then it curves in for the first time and becomes the river route that we saw before. Very nice. So that is one of the last things. We do have this other road, and I do enjoy this. I built it to be similar to the other little highways we have on the other side too. This one just zipping through all the would have been the downtown here, but it actually is still fairly used as it is. So you can see I had another Jersey style jug handle thing going on for a road that never ended up being much of anything. We cross over our highways. This, believe it or not, was a problem at one point. Or no, it wasn't down here. One of these was actually a significant problem before I fixed it. So yeah, I just like following it. And like I said, underground connects back up here. So if you wonder why the population is still plunging, it's because everyone is freaking dying. So it's going to be a little bit before that death wave. The death waves just keep happening. No matter how long you play, you'll never have an end to the death waves. So those are all the main roads we have going on here. I like how when you look at this, you see you have a main avenue perfectly straight, and then you have this crazy mess. And you have some pretty aesthetic looking curves up here, I think anyway, on going up the hill. But yeah, people are dying up here. It is pretty rough. I guess we aren't far enough away in time from when this was all first established. But then again, we are having death waves even in the oldest of areas. Let's look. Yeah, even up here, yeah, we're having death waves. So we'll hope that gets solved. All right, well, we've talked a lot about the roads in the city, but let's talk about our public transportation. So let's take a look. Yeah, we have a lot of monorails. In fact, it is the primary mode of mass transit in the city. And you see that it reaches just about every corner of the city, with the exception of over here and some little pockets. Like here in the middle, for whatever reason, there isn't any, but there is still plenty on the outside rim. And over here, like I said, this area is mainly bus lines because of the low density. And there's a few random areas, like here. I mean, people walk, so they're going to walk to these stations. The randomest gap is this whole area here. This is like NIMBY world. where they don't want any kind of public transportation, I guess, because there is nothing at all there, and they have to walk a pretty good distance to get anywhere. But yeah, I decided I wanted to keep my transit in places where I can see it. I just thought that would be more enjoyable. So most of it's above ground, but we do have some subway lines, and a lot of them are short. Like this one right here serves entirely to connect these monorail lines, which, if it weren't for the subway, would have no way of joining together. And I guess I built this after most of this was developed, and I didn't want to rip a whole bunch of stuff out or just put a line through here, so underground it went. The question is, of course, do people use it? Where is it? There it is. Yeah, some. I wouldn't say it's huge, but let's see. We also have a subway line through here. The other reason we don't have a lot of subway lines is because the hilly nature of the city makes it very difficult to flatten out the slopes. Like you notice, one of our downtowns here doesn't really have anything going right through the center, but it does have several lines going through the outskirts. Now, we do have a few rail lines, but they're only in specific cases. For instance, we do have one that runs along this highway up here. This was put in well before any of this was developed, but it seems like it's come out nicely. Lots of interactions with the other lines. And speaking of subway, I do have a pretty prominent subway line here that goes straight to the airport. I mean, when you have the airport comes with the subway station, so you might as well use it. So I have it connect to this little hub over here, and then it goes further on. A lot of these things are just like spurs, like why does this exist? I don't know, but do people use it? They do pretty well, so there's no reason to get rid of it. And another reason I use the rails is to cross the river. As you can see, no monorail stations actually, or no monorail lines actually cross the river. It's 3 different rail lines that do this job. And you see this one here connects to, you could consider this sort of like a decentralized hub. And on the other side is another bit of a decentralized hub. Oh yeah, and we do have more subway lines on this side of the map. We have one that runs right along the river here. We have one that runs up through the this little square city and up to this area here, where we built all of our new crematoriums. And the other one comes up here and goes up the hill. Remember what I said about subway lines not being good with hills? Well, this is the exception. It went up here, and you can see there was an attempt that was canceled after a few attempts. But yeah, there's also a rail line that climbs the hill. You see that? I wanted to make this very well connected, so you can see that there actually are 2 monorail lines, a subway line, and a rail line that all come up here. This one, of course, curving back and coming over here. Another rail line coming up here. And we have a bit of a mini hub of railroads, with this one crossing over, hitting this station, and then coming up in a loop to this hub here. Like I mentioned before, this is a transportation hub. This station handles outgoing and incoming intercity traffic from this direction. This one handles it in that direction. And this station handles both trains that go from across the river, as well as this line that comes up to the old city and has one intermittent station. So this is the main hub for coming and going from the city. And if you look here, this is not something I would normally make. This existed before. This is automatic. I don't think it goes to anything. Let me just check. Yeah, no, that is just a purely there before I was here thing. And speaking of mass transit, over here we have this area is kind of a paradox because on the one hand, it's our main way in by ship, but on the other hand, there are no rail lines out to here. So the only way that people are going to get to these hubs is through the bus lines. And yeah, we have like about 1 million buses, and there's only 2 stops. If I show you, we have the white line and black line. The white line will take you over the river to this rail station, which will bring you on to, well, this one is actually kind of silly because I built an extension to have a rail connection to this area, but it was never finished. So this, you just get on the train, come up here, and then take the monorails elsewhere. And then you have the black line, which runs up here and connects to this little hub. This area being a monorail and subway hub. Now, there is one more rail line, or one more bus line in this area, because this whole area does not have connections. In fact, it has 2 bus lines. This is how it connects to the rest of the world. So the blue and the green lines come over here, and they come to this station. So it's a pretty well used station because of the bus lines. And speaking of bus lines, we can't forget this area down here. Very colorful, very many bus lines. The amount of people who ride on each bus is actually very low, but it's important that they are connected to the rest of the city. So they're here, they're on there, and they connect to everything else. Now, let's take a look at the statistics here. As you know, we sometimes have to come in here and explode some trains because this crap happens. And if you delete it at the wrong end, of course, it doesn't count. So, yeah, there we go. But let's look at our statistics here. I think we have 31 lines, or we have 30. It says right down here. I'm silly. There were some that were probably deleted for various reasons, like there's no 9, and there is no 31. And if you look at where they are, let's, for instance, look at number 1. Line 1 is up here, and that's the line that goes in a loop around the top of the world up here. Line 2, if I'm not mistaken, is, yeah, it is the other half of that. So they're the same route, they just go in different directions, and neither of them are particularly busy, as you can see by this. Line 3, where are you? Oh yeah, you come down here, and you go here. Not very busy either. So there's a lot of lines that are not busy, but instead of going through all of them one by one, let's just look at the most busy ones. The busiest one by far is this one, line 12, which has its own color. I was very lazy with the colors this turn, or this world, but this white line that you see here starts here at the hub that I was talking about, and it goes in this direction, and then it zips around all the way through to this hub. So it kind of connects 2 hubs, as well as a pretty highly populated area through here. In fact, it's this area, this city. So it's understandable why this would be the busiest line in the city. Now, the only one that's kind of close to it would be this line, which, let's see here. It seems like there's a lot of people, but that might just be a consequence of the line we had to delete. Let's give this one a color. Let's make it like a baby blue kind of thing. This line, oh, what happened? Yeah, baby blue. Alright, this line goes from here down through here, and all the way up to the hub. Yep, the hub is the hub for the reason, because a lot of the most popular lines come out through here. So that's very important. Let's see. We can look at some of these other ones. 26. That one being... Let's see. Let's make you purple. Oh, okay. This one is the one that goes around this whole area. So, a very common way to get around in this area would be this line. And I presume that if we look at the list, 27, that's the one going the other way. What's 13? Let's see what that is. I think that's one of the ones we have to break off. And so we're going to make you yellow. Like a pea yellow. Well, we'll do that. Alright. So what you do is you come down here and you loop around here. It doesn't seem like this line would be a big line, but it does connect a number of other lines. So people probably use this to connect. It's the main line through here. So, yeah, I can sort of see why this is pretty important. Like, if we catch a train in transit here, okay, it doesn't have that many people, actually, but it seems like it works out. And the whole thing, the whole system, I do believe, works very well. So, we do have some lines that have very few people. If we want to look at these guys, number 2 we looked at, let's look at 11, for instance. This one comes down through here. It's not very long, and I guess there are better ways to get around. So people are not using that one. Number 19, for instance, that one starts here and goes... Where does it go? Oh, it just goes here. Like, there's a lot of these lines that are not that highly used, but I refuse to close any of them because we have infinite money, and I like my people being connected. And now, let's look at the subway. The subway lines, similarly, we have some that are barely used. Whichever one was first to be made was deleted at one point, I guess. But if you look at the most used subway, we see that it's the one that, unsurprisingly, leads from the airport. So, yeah, people take this. There's a hub here, and just about everywhere along here, they can get on to more other forms of transit. So, it's very, very highly used. Let's see. We have 2 others that are also highly used. So let's see what they are. Okay, this one, once again, starts at our hub. Anything that goes to the hub is going to be very, very busy. So it comes up from the hub, and it comes to this little town. So this is one of those areas that's kind of hard to get to, except through this subway line. Because if you don't use the subway line, you're going to have to take a series of, like, these monorail lines don't go anywhere near anything else, so you're going to have to take either this subway or that subway. So, let's see, which one is that one? Well, that one's 4, so it doesn't have that many people. And the other busy one is, unsurprisingly, well, actually, we're having a problem here. We need to up the number of trains. But this one is not surprising why it's busy. It's the main one along the river here. It connects with a hub here. There's a bit of a hub here. And, of course, the big train hub over here. This is where the train transportation is the most used. Let's take a look at the trains. It seems like we don't have that many train lines, but we actually have 11 of them. Or we have 9. Once again, some of them probably got deleted at various points. One, of course, beats everything. And if we see where it is the boy that, unsurprisingly, once again, goes from our hub and brings everyone over here. Because this is the main way in and out by rail. Like, all rail passenger traffic comes through here. So anyone who wants to come to the other side of the map has to come through here. It's just required. Why can't I? Oh, there we go. And in fact, yeah, it's barely fit the capacity. But we can give him one more train. Why not? So yeah, that one only has 3 stations, but it's very highly used. This station, probably not so busy, but the 2 on either end, highly used. So let's see, where was I? If we come back to here, let's see what some of these other ones are. Number 9, that one is one of the interesting ones. It goes diagonally across this area, and it goes and hits this and comes up here. So you can understand why this one, even though it's not the straightest thing in the world, is pretty well used. And we also have number 8, which is the one that it only has two stations itself, but it ferries people across the river from this area to this area. So, seeing that we only have train lines crossing the river over here, anyone that's going to be doing that is going to be pretty important. This one here is less important. This one being, let's see if we can find out which one this is. Number 5. I mean, it's not nothing, but the areas where it goes are a little bit less prominent, a little bit less connected, so it's not too much of a stretch to understand why that one isn't so busy. So those are all the subway lines. If we have a little bit of fun and look at the bus lines, there are not many people on many of these lines. Like, this one has 2 riders on it, apparently. Like, there's no reason for me to keep this. Like, these lines are all, like, there's one guy waiting, and he's a tourist. And there's this big articulated bus, all for that guy. It's funny enough to keep it. So, we do have some major bus lines. Of course, the biggest one is the one that goes from the harbor up here to the train station. That's just going to be the biggest one. The let's see, the second biggest one, the only other one over 100, is the one that goes from the harbor over to this part of the world. So it's very understandable. Now, this one actually isn't so bad itself. It's the blue line, which of course is the main way to get to this area down here. And I imagine that dark green line is probably the next one. Yep. And then you have just all these other ones that don't matter and nobody cares. So if you look at the number of people who are riding our transport, the city is ruled by the monorail, although the rail is a sizable chunk of that itself. And we have a fair bit on all of our transportations. Even the ferries, which we don't have any ferries within the cities, it still is pretty big. And of course, the airplanes, when it comes to tourists, they do still prefer the monorail, but by a smaller margin. A lot are on the regular rail. Decent amount are on the subway. We don't have any taxis. We don't have any cable cars. So if we look at all our lines, yeah, we don't really have any very much set up for tourism in this city. So that is an overview of our public transportation, just for fun. You probably went to see the traffic, and it's at 78%, which, all things considered, is not bad, especially for a city this big. There are some areas that are a squeeze, like right here, for instance. That's a little bit rough, but you can see nothing is getting too stuck. Because if we go over here, I want to show it to you that we are on hard mode. This entire time we are on hard mode, no despawning. We play the game for real in this economy. So that is what we do. Now let's take a look at, let's go back here, see what other areas are rough. Like sometimes it shows red here and it's like, it's not that bad. Look at it, it's not that bad. And like here, now they're getting jiggy with it. So pretty much even in areas that show red, they're all still humming along pretty nicely. See? I mean, this area, this is the area that I had all of the stuff set up in. It works out real well. And I just love how I've managed to arrange it in a way that they actually use the lanes I've given them. Of course, this is always going to be kind of nuts. This is where all the buses come, so that's going to be a lot. And yeah, this is just going to always kind of suck. But yeah, we have like little spots like this right here and right here. But even these spots, I just don't see it as being a major problem. Let's see, anything over here? Yeah, this bridge is always going to be bright red. But if you look at it, it's functioning. It's functioning just fine. People are using it just as they need to. And there's no backups. No real backups. I mean, there's like some delay over here, but it's not backed up significantly. Over here, we have a little bit of, this used to be bad, but ever since I rebuilt all this, it's zipping along. This is a bit of a problem. I don't know if all that I've added here actually gives it problem. This, yeah, there are some silly things going on here, and this might require a timing. We could do something like that. I don't know. I can show you how it's done since we're here. We click on the light, set up time traffic light, add a step. Very often I'll add a step just for pedestrians, but I don't think we need to do that here. So we're going to go for just that. We'll have it go for 15 seconds. And then after that, we're going to have this go. We'll have it go, I'm thinking it doesn't need to go that long. We're going to do 6 seconds. And then after that, we are going to do this one. And we're going to have this go for 10. Is that too much? I don't know. But let's turn it on. We'll see it. We'll see it go. And the other thing to worry about is this little distance here. Makes the trucks kind of freak out. So we might have to rebuild some of this. I am thinking about alternate ways of doing this. How much road capacity do we have? Let's take a look. Are we out? No, we're not quite out. But yeah, we need to do something about that. So one thing we can do is we're going to take this. Yes, I'm not just giving you a tour, I'm showing you the game. We'll extend it to there. Make sure these nodes are far enough apart. And we're going to do that. And we're going to take that. And we are going to simply do that. And we are going to make sure that everything is the way it should be. No turning left. You're going straight. You're going right. You are going correctly. And I want to make sure that there's no lane swip swapping. And let's make sure this is still accurate. Alright, so we have that. We have that. And we have that. Okay. So we're going to start that up. And it's going to be a little bit of confusion while these guys figure out what the heck they're doing. But I think just that little just that little adjustment there, making the nodes further apart, is going to cause it to work better. You can take that one to the bank. Let's see it in action with the thing. So that's this direction, and now we're getting 10 seconds on this, which I think is necessary because there is plenty going on through here. So that's going to stop counting, and now we are going to have 15 seconds here, and I think that is going to move everyone. And you can see just those few changes are getting everything moving again. So yeah, this whole area works. I'm very happy about that. So if we look at traffic flow, you can see it's still very red, but that might go down. This is working just fine. This is all working fine. This is working fine up here. This is just a little bit red because of how many trucks are using the area. But once again, like, we don't have insane backups. Everything is functioning. We have a couple somewhat red areas, but this is fine. I don't see a problem. Let's look around some more. Yeah, there is a bit of a... it does sort of slow down over here, but I really don't think that we have to worry about that being a significant problem. I mean, the first intersection after a freeway is going to always be a little bit hairy. Let's see. Yeah, this crossing, all the crossings are kind of busy. We get, yeah, this is a bit of a squeeze. This whole area, remember what I said about people cutting through this area to get up to here? Yeah, this has always been a little bit of a problem, this area. But ever since I built this little Super 2, or this little kind of expressway here, it just brings everyone through. The other big route is, you see people come from the highway, they come through here, and they go down here. But it seems to all be functioning now. A lot of trial and error went into this. Like, you might wonder why this city is the way that it is. It's because of trial and error. And once again, this used to be a nightmare, but it's gotten fixed up. This looks like it should be a nightmare, but I don't know. I think that people are zipping along here. They're moving. They're grooving. They're having fun. Over here, yeah. Once again, I don't see the problem. It is overly worried about how busy this is. This is completely fine. This is completely fine. This ramp is very heavy in volume, but you can kind of see, this actually kind of shows you the routes that people take too, like the heavy routes. So, and everything back in here is fine. Like, you have some higher volume things, but in general this area all runs very smoothly. So, yeah, this entire expressway is a little bit rough, but we don't have to worry about such things. And while we're here, we might as well have some fun with just, like, looking at things. So if we click on this, what do we see? Everyone who uses that route. I don't know what it shows you here. Private vehicles, trucks. So people are coming and using this. Some of them are leaving. Some of them are coming up through here. We have a lot of trucks going to different areas. Let's say we wanted to see who was on this stretch of road. You can see all the trucks coming in from over here. And adjust roads. You can have different roads be different things. Like, this is all considered one road by the game. Which is pretty funny, but yeah, we can see what's going on here for this area. We do have some private vehicles. It's not all trucks, but it's mostly trucks. A lot of people are using this bridge, and they're coming through. You have some that are coming up into these other areas, but not so many. Yeah, a lot of them are coming through over here. So, I don't know. Let's click something else random. Like, who is using this? It's mostly... This one has much more... Has public transport and cargo. Interesting. And city services. Oh, yeah. Because we have things like this here, and we have other things. So, you can have a lot of fun with this. Let's see. We can look at leisure. I tend to have a lot of parks. There are some areas that are very, I guess they're underserved by the parks. But some of them are like industrial areas, so I don't know what the deal is there. Oh, this is unique buildings. Okay, this is who's close to a unique building. Oh, it's everything, but I can click on this. And yeah, there is no shortage of parkland in my city. No matter where you are not far from some sort of city park. And I think that's very important for everyone to enjoy, except for like these guys. I guess they're just kind of screwed. I mean, these are things I can easily fix, like here. Have a park. Why not? So park areas. Oops. If I want to see the park areas, I have several. I have both more and less than I thought we would have had. I thought we would have had many more, but we only have one over here, but it's very big. Then we have another little one over here. Oh, that's a building that could be in a park area, but isn't. Oh, what else do we have? Yeah, we have some parks over here. Some sizable ones. This is the Big Daddy, the zoo over here. And Myrtle Park, I guess, whatever this is, that's also popular. We have some less popular parks. So, we don't have nothing. And libraries. We only have a few. We have, let's see, 2 there, 1 there. What's that? Oh, the Creators Library. It's hardcore. And I think we have one here. Yep, we have one there. And don't we have one down here somewhere? I thought we did. Maybe not. But anyway, yeah, that's fine. Natural resources. I mean, I exploit them when I can. Nothing too much to look for. Outside connections. So, oh yeah, import, export. So, we don't have a huge amount of imports going on, if you can see. The buildings are relatively scattered. And there's not that many of them. In some areas, there's no imports at all. If we go to exports, a lot of our oil, a lot of this here. So we have some areas that are export driven. But it seems like on the whole, I mean, we're exporting more than we're importing. So we have a net trade. We have the trade imbalance is in our favor here. So that's pretty cool. I'm very happy about that. But most of what we do is domestic consumption. Like, we are pretty self-contained here. We've already looked at transport, fire safety, the hazard, 22%, not so bad. There are some areas that are a little rough. You can see where all the fire stations are. They're scattered around. Yeah, that's it. This isn't great. But no, I think we've got a pretty good fire coverage going on. Pollution. This just shows you where our indies are, with the exception of the forestry. So yeah, our biggest industrial hubs are, we've got a few bunched together over here. We have a few down here. And we have this big one over here. They tend to be bunched. Oh, I have eco-friendly water treatment, and then I have 2 regular ones that are just sticking out like a sore thumb. And some of it's getting sucked up. It's kind of funny. Like, you can see distinctly where the water just, it comes out, it flows through. Because as much as these are supposed to be rivers, they're actually flat. There is no flow apart from what we have created through our own uses. So if we look at wind, not too exciting, but of course it's up on these hills, it's more, and in flatter areas. So that's what wind is. Health, We had a huge death wave problem, but you see the deceased are going down. So we're taking care of that. Also the healthcare. Hospitals are pretty scattered around. I'm generally pretty good about keeping everybody having some sort of service. So death care, that's the hardcore one. I have a few hubs of crematoriums. We do have this one here that we built on camera just now. We have a handful over here. We have like some here, some there, but we have a few big hubs. Like right here is a bit of a hub. And where's the big daddy of hubs? Well, there's this one, but that one's not the big daddy I'm thinking of. The big daddy's, oh, yep, here it is. Here's the big daddy of hubs. If ever I have to clear traffic and they all pop out at the same time, this becomes quite congested. So that's pretty funny. But we have a couple major hubs, and we have like places where we have like clusters of 3 or 4. You know, nothing too crazy. We have a single one over here. We have a few little clusters over here, a few more there. So that's what the reason I wanted to build this hub over here, because you can see there weren't that many over here before that. So I think we're doing well here. Childcare. This is all like newer stuff to the game, so I only have a couple of actual child care centers. It's probably not great. Elder care centers, once again, I only have a couple. Probably something I could improve on. Let's see what else we have here. Education. We have a really good thing here. Our population is very highly educated. We're doing great. And you can see we have elementary schools all over the city. If we look at high schools, once again, we have them all over. We need a few less, but we have a lot. Universities, once again, we do have a fair bit. Now, what's this? That's not a university, is it? Oh, it is. It just looks different at different angles. Oh, right, because we have things like that. So, yeah, you're never far from a university in our city. Well, I shouldn't say that. Like, there are areas here that don't really have them close by, but they're plentiful enough that people are getting their things. We've already looked at public libraries. Yeah, this is rough because there's not that many, and could possibly do better with that. Water, we are just making it. We might have to build more sewage treatment plants in the near future. Park maintenance, everything is doing well. We do have our park maintenance building over here, which services everything. I think, ooh, look at that. We have no visitors to certain parks. Oh, probably because it's not actually a park, is it? No, it's not. Sometimes I try to make a district, but I click on the wrong thing and make it a park. So that's sort of the reason for that. But the park, we have a few that are boosted, but I feel like we could do a lot more. So why not just let's do that? We're going to put them in the 4 corners of the map. We're going to put one here. Up here, we're going to stick one there. Over here, we're going to stick one. And then, let's see, where do we want it? Oh, heck, let's put one there. And I think that should do it. Do we have room here? We do, actually. Yeah, let's do it. Make sure these are all... Yep, they're already in pretty high context areas, so we're doing all right with that. Now, tourism. It's funny, like the parks, they're supposed to be for people of the city, you would think, but it seems like they're just tourist attractors. So we're pretty attractive to tourists. And so, I mean, we could have lighter colors there, like this area. Oh, right, this is a tourist area laid out for them. I only have the one, I think, in the entire city. But they are visiting, and attractiveness, they seem to be sticking out. We have a few stand out. They love coming to the aquarium, so that's kind of cool. Terrain height, once again. I mean, I wish this was a little bit more dynamic so we could see it better. What's that? Districts, okay. Like I said, I didn't make a whole bunch of districts. I mainly have them for functional reasons. This district isn't really a district. This was called Everything Here Is Gonna Get It, because I wanted to mark out where I was going to put my Super 2 highway. And it's like, okay, anything within this slash, it's fair game to get blown up, because there used to be like more buildings and crap there, but that was long ago. Land value, the bright green is the highest. And basically, like, this apparently is a prized neighborhood to live in. So you have like fully upgraded stuff. This should be like somewhat upgraded, yeah. Then there's like less industrial, so that's always kind of poor. But I wonder if there's any like poor residential areas that we can live in. The Umber district, people don't love this area. It's not doing too hot. But yeah, here's a great address right here for whatever reason. What's over here? Yeah, even this, it shows that it's low, but it's got 4 out of 5. So it's only so low. Yeah, there are certain areas here, like anywhere near Vermont land, which is a crazy name for a park, but some of the old cities doing hot. Let's see, this area up here, there are some good spots for high value. Down here, this city. People love living here. This is Mulberry Heights. That is a prime real estate location, I think. Over here is not so bad. In our square here is pretty good. How about here? Yeah, this whole area, this is like the ghetto. This is like the wrong side of the tracks. Nobody wants to live over here. It's kind of sad. But yeah, most of our city has good high land value. Now, population, we have, let's see, mostly families, mostly seniors, mostly adults. When you have a new city where everything is being developed for the first time, you're going to have wild swings. But I think once you're a little bit more developed, like we are, you have a fairly even distribution. Like, there's a lot of families here. We have some buildings that are mostly seniors, but I think because of that big death wave that happened, we lost a lot of our seniors, and the new generation hasn't aged up into seniors yet, and that's probably the reason. It's also a good way to show where everyone lives, but I'm seeing if we can see any kind of crazy trends. So we have, yeah, Mulberry Heights is full of families, but generally everywhere is full of families. I wonder if there's anywhere there's just a bunch of adults. Like this area has a bit more just adults than other areas, but not too pronounced. Yeah, the demographics are pretty uniform over the thing. There's more families here. Let's see, over here, more families everywhere. I guess over here, you'll have some areas where there's more adults, more seniors. Let's look over here. Yeah, even in the ghetto, it's pretty even. Yeah, I don't have much more to comment about that because it's just pretty uniform all around our city. We move up. Crime low versus high. Everything's blue. Even the so-called ghetto is blue. We just don't have crime in our city. You can see where our police stations are, our jails. Don't know where our jails are exactly. I know we have at least a couple. Are you a jail? No, you're police headquarters. Is this a jail? No. I'm pretty sure I have at least one jail in the city somewhere. But maybe not. Maybe they were just locked up in the station. But yeah. Noise. It's a loud city. Of course, highways are noisy. Commercial, industrial are noisy. So, yeah, we have a noisy city overall. But there are some areas where you can live and be quiet. Even like areas like this that are kind of near noisy stuff can be quiet. But if you want the quietest areas in the city, I mean, you got some commercial noise here, but generally it's pretty quiet. Out here, we got some quiet areas. This area is remarkably quiet. Down here is very loud here, all this industry. This area is quiet. Back here is quiet. Up here's got some areas that are not so bad, but overall, as loud as it looks, it's in pockets, you know. Apparently the countdown clock is loud. They do movie nights here very loudly. It's pretty funny. What's going on over here? What's even zoned? Oh, that's an indie. All right. So we got a lot of that crap. And now if we look at levels, the darker the level, the good. So we've got a lot of dark levels here. Like we've got some less levels, but we've got fully developed stuff. Except for offices, the majority of everything else is like doing really well. What's this? Yeah, they're like a step down maybe, but for the most part, everyone's doing great. So happiness. This is how happy everyone is. Man, our industry is really happy. 93%. Our residents are 86% happy. Commercial and office are a little bit less, but in general, they're more happy than not. Like, there's just a grumpy guy over here. Oh, you can even see the citizens. Like, let's go look at some... Alright, where is our hub? It's over here, right? Can we see how happy they are? Oh yeah, we can see how happy a lot of them are. Hey, I see happy people just everywhere. It's like the REM song. It's shiny happy people. Are there any clusters of unhappy? Not really. It's really just scattered miserable people. That was the other REM song, Scattered Miserable People. You never heard that one, did you? But yeah, I don't see any clusters. So we're doing okay. Everyone's happy. Garbage. Everything is good. We don't have any landfills. We only have the things. Incinerators. You can see these were the original two incinerators that were working on our old city. We have... Like before, we have a few hubs. Like I probably pointed out this one earlier. We have a little bit of a hub over here. We have a hub down here. And by the way, see the traffic is completely solved here. We did it, guys. Yep, another hub here. Hub over here. Pretty big hub. This used to be behind everything. Hub over here. So we have hubs. We don't have one giant hub. We have a few smaller hubs. And finally, electricity. We're producing more than we need. So, yeah, it's one happy interconnectedness. I don't think this is connected, but this is connected here. So they're off on their own, but all the rest of the city is one big connected fun zone. It's kind of funny. There's a lack of connection along here, but it's connected up here, so it really does reach everything. Yeah. So pretty much I have shown you everything in the city. I have shown you every corner. I have shown you every aspect of the city. So we are pretty satisfied with this. Now, if you want to question what the name is, like why Clobunod, it was literally just a keyboard smash. Like, not really a smash, but I sort of put my fingers in a position and sort of wiggled them around, and that's what fell out. And I was surprised to see that it was actually a pronounceable word. Like, it doesn't look like a word in any language, but Clobunod is like, it's very easy and I would dare say fun to say. So, come to Clobunod. It's a great place. And I love the name. I like the name a lot. So, what we're going to do is we're going to round out this episode with some ground level stuffs. So, thank you for watching, everybody, and enjoy that.